Hey guys, this is Page from Beebom.com, and this right here is the brand new Realme GT Neo 2. This is a Snapdragon 870 phone that has just launched in India at a price tag of Rs 31,999 for the 128GB variant. And now this goes against the Mi 11X, which is also a Snapdragon 870 phone, and this has an official price tag of Rs 28,999 for the 128GB variant. Plus, both of these are available at some great festive offers as well. So which is the better phone to go for? The Neo 2 or the Mi 11X? Well, I've done a detailed comparison, so stick till the end to find out the verdict. So let's take it one by one. Let's start with the design of these phones. Okay, so here we go. This is the Realme GT Neo 2 and the Mi 11X side by side. And I think both of these phones are premium looking with glass backs, so I'd say the looks are pretty subjective. I mean, the Mi 11X has a glossy finish in this black variant, which is a huge fingerprint magnet, but it is available in matte finishes too. As for the GT Neo 2, this is the GT Neo's Neo Blue variant, which I like with its matte glass frosted back, but there is also the Neo Green variant, which is kind of bold and some people might like it. So yeah, both of these phones give you multiple options. Also, for anyone wondering, both of these phones have a plastic frame. As for the dimensions and weight, the Mi 11X is slightly thinner and 4 grams lighter, but the GT Neo 2 has a marginally small footprint when it comes to height and width. You know what? It's just not a big enough difference. Now do note that both of these phones don't have a headphone jack, there's no microSD slot, but both of these phones do have stereo speaker setups. Well, in my usage, I found the GT Neo 2 speakers fantastic. I mean, compared to the Mi 11X speakers, there's just a little more depth, a little more thump on the GT Neo 2 speakers with its louder earpiece speaker. The Mi 11X speakers are good too, and they have a little more treble, so that's there. Now, so far, it's been pretty evenly matched, but both of these phones have their advantages when it comes to design that the other phone lacks. The Realme GT Neo 2 has an in-display fingerprint scanner, which honestly, I prefer a lot more than a side-mounted fingerprint scanner on phones like the Mi 11X. I mean, I expect in-display fingerprint scanners on AMOLED phones. Now, on the other hand, the Mi 11X has a Gorilla Glass 5 back as well as front, and it has the IP53 rating for splash resistance. The GT Neo 2 does have a glass back, but there's no mention of Gorilla Glass. And yeah, like most phones these days, this should be splash resistance, but there's no IP rating. Coming to the displays, both these phones have the same display, at least on paper. E4 AMOLED panel, FHD+, 120Hz refresh rate, same contrast ratio, 1300 nits of peak brightness, HDR10+ support, 100% DCI-P3. Now, there are a few differences. The GT Neo 2's panel is said to have a touch sampling rate of 600 Hz compared to 375 Hz on the Mi 11X. Apart from this, the Mi 11X has MEMC support, which GT Neo 2 lacks, but the GT Neo 2 has the O1 Ultra Vision engine with features like video image enhancer, so yeah, it's good. Now, specs apart, I think both the panels look really good, really vibrant and really smooth thanks to the higher refresh rate. They have been tuned a little differently, with the GT Neo 2 going for a warmer look and the Mi 11X going for a cooler look, but you can always change the color mode. I also did a manual brightness comparison, and both these displays are very bright. Now, in a manual test, I did feel the Mi 11X panel was maybe 1-2% brighter. Honestly, you'll be good with any of these great AMOLED panels. Next up, I want to compare these cameras because this is one area where I'm expecting a big difference. See, both of them have triple cameras, but the main camera is what matters. The GT Neo 2 has a 64 megapixel main sensor, while the 11X has a 48 megapixel main camera. So which is better? Well, it's pretty close. See, both phones have their advantages, but I think the GT Neo 2 is slightly better overall. See, the GT Neo 2 shots are more detailed almost every single time. For example, in this photo of the PS5 controller, if we zoom in, you can see that the GT Neo 2 shot is sharper. Now here's another example, again zooming in and more details on the Realme phone. The GT Neo 2 also has better dynamic range. I'll give you two examples. For example, in this photo, you can see the buildings in the background in the GT Neo 2 shot. Now here's another photo where you can see the window, and yeah, the GT Neo 2 is just better at dynamic range. Now the Mi 11X does take more natural shots at times, but to be honest, both of these phones saturate colors here and there, so yeah, it's fine. Now in low light, it's a very close call. The Mi 11X does very well when it comes to sharp photos, even if it comes at the cost of more noise. The GT Neo 2 cuts down the noise better, but sacrifices the sharpness at times. However, when it comes to night mode, the GT Neo 2 has the better night mode. Now we took these shots in the night mode, and as you can see from the shots, it's a big difference. When it comes to videos, the GT Neo 2 supports up to 4K 60 FPS videos, while the Mi 11X can only do 4K 30 FPS max. Anyway, here's a 4K 30 FPS video from both the phones, and color-wise and even stability-wise, they look pretty close. But I did notice that the Mi 11X video was a little sharper at times. Now, when it comes to ultra-wide-angle lens, both of these phones are sort of decent. They both take photos that are sharp and in focus, but the color accuracy is something that both of them are inconsistent with. Apart from that, when it comes to a front camera, the GT Neo 2 has a 16 megapixel sensor, while the Mi 11X has a 20 megapixel sensor. Now, megapixels apart, both these phones take fairly good and well-exposed selfies, but the Mi 11X selfies are sharper and they have this warmer tone which might be appealing for some people. Moving on to the performance, the GT Neo 2 and 11X are evenly matched. Snapdragon 870, UFS 3.1 storage, you know the specs. But how do they fare in the real world? Well, both these phones are nice and smooth in day-to-day usage, and when it comes to gaming, both of these phones are also almost lag-free when gaming at highest graphics settings. So that's good, but apart from that, I ran a few tests. First up, I did some benchmarks. Now, first up, I did a storage speed test where the GT Neo 2 scores higher, which is a surprise since both of these phones have UFS 3.1 storage. Anyway, I also ran some CPU, GPU benchmarks. Here's the Antutu score, where surprisingly, again, the GT Neo 2 scores higher. Now, same with the Geekbench 5 scores, the GT Neo 2 does better, and that may be due to the thermals. See, Xiaomi has not clearly talked about a cooling system in the Mi 11X, but the GT Neo 2 comes with what Realme calls stainless steel vapor cooling plus, which is a large area 8-layer structure. Now, I'm telling you this because I did a thermal throttling test on both these phones, and while both of these phones don't have any overheating issues in my testing, I did notice that the Realme GT Neo 2 performed a little better than the Mi 11X. So I used the CPU throttling test app and I ran it 3 times. In the first 15-minute run, the GT Neo 2 throttled to 88% of its max performance, while the Mi 11X throttled to 78% of its max performance. Now, in the second 15-minute run, the GT Neo 2 throttled to 86% of its max performance, and the Mi 11X went to 77%, as you can see in the screenshot. Now, in the last run, I ran the test for 30 minutes, and again, the GT Neo 2 was better, throttling to only 89% of its max performance. The Mi 11X, on the other hand, throttled to 79%, which is not bad, but yeah, the GT Neo 2 is better. Now, the next segment is battery and charging. The Realme GT Neo 2 is the better phone on paper here, be it on the battery front or charging. Now, the battery performance is something I tested, and while it was not a big difference, the GT Neo 2 was obviously a little better. I played a YouTube video at 1080p at max brightness for an hour, and the GT Neo 2 lost only 6% battery, while the Mi 11X was also pretty good, losing 7% battery. I also recorded a 15-minute 4K video on both the phones, and in this, both phones lost exactly the same 5% battery. Now, as for the overnight battery drain, I checked and both the phones are pretty good, losing only 2% battery. Now, on the charging front, the Realme GT Neo 2 goes from 0 to 100% in just 39 minutes with its 65-watt charger, while the Mi 11X takes 58 minutes with its 33-watt charger. Now, when it comes to software, there's Realme UI 2.0, there's MIUI 12. Now, both of these UI skins have their fans, so it's subjective. Now, when it comes to pre-installed apps, the Mi 11X is better. The GT Neo 2 has Netflix, Snapchat, Amazon, Facebook, Daily Hunt, Josh, LinkedIn, Booking.com, Prime Video, Amazon Music, Moj. Yeah, lots of them, although they can be uninstalled. The Mi 11X has Netflix, Amazon, Prime Video, Facebook, LinkedIn, and yes, these can be uninstalled too. Now, apart from that, both of these phones are on the August security patch, so yeah, pretty even. Lastly, there's the connectivity. Now, when it comes to 5G bands, the GT Neo 2 is a proper 5G phone. Unlike the Mi 11X, it has 8 5G bands, while the Mi 11X has 2 5G bands. Apart from that, both these phones have carrier aggregation support, so that's great. But one thing to note is that the Realme GT Neo 2 has NFC on board, which is something that the Mi 11X lacks. Now, it's not a big deal, but it's something you should know. Well, it's time now for the verdict. So which is the better phone between these two, the Realme GT Neo 2 or the Mi 11X? Well, I'll be honest, the Mi 11X is a phone that I liked until the Realme GT Neo 2 arrived, because honestly, the Realme GT Neo 2 looks like the better phone overall. See, the Realme phone wins on a lot of important factors. It has a better camera, a bigger battery, faster charging, more 5G bands, better performance in thermal tests, better touch sampling rate, and it has an in-display fingerprint scanner, which I really like. Now the Mi 11X has a Gorilla Glass 5 front and back, IP53 rating, better front cameras, and it's a bit more affordable. But yeah, the GT Neo 2 is my winner here because, like I said, it's just a better phone overall. Well, what do you guys think? Which phone would you go for, the Realme GT Neo 2 or the Mi 11X? Comment down below. Also give this video a like, make sure to share it and subscribe to our channel for more amazing tech videos. Well, that's me signing off. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.